Gentlemen, one of my dreams in life is to acquire a full auto MP5 that has been tricked out to the nines. I would then charter a second-rate ship of the line and sail off into the sunset. You would probably never hear from me ever again. You might hear whispers about some former rogue, idiot gun tuber fighting pirates off the coast of Somalia, or about how a handful of good men brought civilization to Sentinel Island. But that is it. 'Tis but a dream. My old lady's not a big fan of my privateer fantasy. Contact! Reloading! Sling. Now, a big part of this dream obviously involves a submachine gun, more specifically the MP5. I think they are a very cool weapon system. There is a big problem though. They are also very expensive. Sure, you can get them. There's one way where it's less bureaucratic. There's another way. Well, the less bureaucratic way is going to take way more money. There's another way where it's more bureaucratic, far more bureaucratic, I will say. You kind of lose your Fourth Amendment right along the way. And it's definitely not how the powdered wigs fellas intended the server to be ran. So this conundrum leaves the average Joe with a pistol caliber carbine, a semi-automatic pistol caliber carbine. And sure, these are still lethal. They'll absolutely put a fella into a dirt nap real quick, but they are not as effective as the intermediate cartridges are across the board. You're thinking 300 blackout, 5.56, 7.62, either 308 or 7.62 by 39, 6 arc, whatever you want it, whatever your flavor is, my guy. 5.45, got 5.45. What is a fella to do? My friends, you were born too late to explore the world, born too early to explore the stars, but born just in time for an FRT. This is a message to the YouTube manual reviewer. Hi, hope you're having a lovely day in corporate America. This is a semi-automatic firearm. It's completely legal. It's only semi-automatic. It is not fully automatic. Also, all the magazines you see in the video are YouTube compliant. They do not break the rules. I've modified them to ensure that they are, in fact, YouTube compliant magazines. Now, you may continue on generating shareholder value for your employees, the technocrat billionaires of Silicon Valley. Have a lovely day. There are two things that make this particularly stand out as a copium fever dream MP5 build. The first big one, it is not an H&K MP5. This is a Zenith-made MP5. I believe they made their ZF5s in America though, so we got that going for us. Now, the problem is if you're an HK aficionado, an HK fanboy, which they do run the risk of being insufferable, and I do run the risk of being insufferable, you don't believe in compromise. It's kind of a funny joke. The second thing that makes this incredibly cope would be the addition of the FRT, the Super Safety, particularly the As Designs Super Safety. Now we're gonna cut into the part where mine actually wet the bed after getting out here. So the crossbar, the cross-bolt safety setup is where it looks like this was housed for the trip bar, and then it ended up just searing right on out, which is a big bummer. So I believe, though, the gun will still shoot in semi-automatic. So at least we have that going for us at the moment until I get this worked out. But we will continue on with the video. We have all just been cucked in our super safety activities. Now the super safety to me is kind of cope, even though it's really cool, because it represents the freedom that we crave, but we can't have. But at least it makes my booger hooker far more efficient. I called this fit. I have an architect meeting at 4:30, overthrowing my local municipality government at 6. Anyway. I'm on cloud 9, fellas. Yeah, this definitely isn't getting monetized. One thing I wanted to do was a grouping test. Got the Rattler, see how it does against 5.56. Because I'm silly like that, it's gonna get hot. Definitely felt it moving around a little bit. Not my finest work. Now we'll go to the MP5. Take the can off real quick. So we'll go a little burst, see how we do. Initially when you do it, it's always like getting the ride down. Once you get that ride down for the rest of it, it's like no problem. It's like no factor, dude. Easily 2 off. That's like the ride I'm talking about. It's shoddy work on my part, dude. Shoddy work. Clearly not a professional. Just a gun tuber idiot. And then you can see I really hate this guy's right shoulder, but we got some rounds into his spinal column and his pelvic girdle. I really covered the gambit with this guy. Now, not as tight of a group, but I will say, still 5.56 coming at him. It's a bad day for Mr. Skeletor. All right, here's the skinny. So the part broke. I hit up As Designs. I filled them in on everything. The trip bar we were using, which was the V3M trip bar, and then the kind of ammo we were using, and all of that. And he's like, everything's okay, but you should really lean into using the V4M trip bar. Needless to say, he did a great job of helping out. So I'm very thankful on that. And now we're back to the races. It was just one of those things like a failure point you wouldn't expect, and then thankfully it was an easily to swap thing, like the trip was okay and everything else like that. So now we are, fellas, I'm thinking we're cooking with gasoline. Now besides those 2 things, I have pretty much built out my dream MP5 setup. Of course it could be better, a legit full auto trigger pack in there with the actual H&K MP5. Particularly, I mean, a Navy trigger group would be pretty cool, but pretty much everything else, I've built out my dream MP5 setup. It's pretty simple to me, at least. A big part of that would be a Surefire 628 handguard. So the Surefire 628 handguard, that is essentially the more, it's the more retro version of Surefire's integrated flashlight into the handguard. The problem is with that setup, with the more conventional 628 flashlight, if you try and run a suppressor on the gun, you will face issues of the bulb hitting that silencer. So what I did was spend a gross amount of money on a Surefire A17 adapter. Now there are the other Surefire integrated light handguards, like a Surefire 328, but I have to have a certain aesthetic. And that Surefire 660 type bulb, it just speaks to me on a spiritual level. If anyone out there from Surefire is watching this, if you guys wanted to make a boatload of money, listen up. A YouTuber is talking. What you do, take all of your old school laser products, retro lights, and modernize them. Bring them back to market. The weapon-mounted light arms race has been a disaster for weapon light aesthetic. Make it smaller! Make it brighter! Make it light! Perhaps the candela of a candlestick was enough the whole time. So, how do we solve the problem of the Surefire 628 not interfacing with a silencer on your MP5? Simple. I move my knight to take your bishop. We conduct an L-shaped movement. So the Surefire A17 light adapter, I can't stress to you guys enough how much Skrilla I dropped on not only just an obsolete piece of technology as far as weapon mounted lights go, but I guess that's about it. Like, I dropped a lot of money on it. So if you could do me a solid and leave me a comment in that comment section down below, because as you are commenting on this video while you're glued to the toilet, I am reading those comments, and I too am glued to the toilet interacting with you. And in a beautiful way, guys. It's kind of like we are connected in that moment. And then I was trying to hunt down the history behind it, like the development, say if there was any sort of units that requested this specifically, and I even reached out to a contact that I have at Surefire. And at the time of filming this, he has yet to fill me in, but I'm assuming, which can be dangerous, ass out of you and me, but I'm gonna take an assuming risk that at some point in time throughout the MP5 service life, alongside those integrated Surefire 628 handguards, they probably realized as they wanted to attach a suppressor, they're like, well, we've spent all this money on these Surefire lights that go into the handguard. We want to use silencers, but we can't. So they hit up Surefire, and Surefire is like, oh yeah, well, we'll just drop it down and over. And that was probably it. Like, that's my guess. Like, some government entity from somewhere around the world reached out and asked, and they're like, yeah, no problem. They just machined it on up and then got it out the door. And then the old heads at the time probably never thought about the fact that there's gonna be some idiot YouTuber hyper analyzing this detail in the year 2025. I hope that guy invested in Bitcoin. I sure didn't. I want to try out some Badlands Jello shots. These are the 135 grain teal. You know, it's not like the craziest thing. It always feels good. Just getting that like rhythm going. Just no, it feels even better. My super safety actually worked. Now, as we take a small trek from the handguard to the end of the barrel where we have the silencer on the gun. The silencer for this build technically isn't anything like niche or cool, any old retro silencer. It's just a Otter Creek Lithium 9. Now, it's just a good 9mm can. It's what I had on hand. I think it's a great 9mm can, lightweight, durable, doing the job. But that's what we have on here. Because part of the dream was I wanted to have my cake and eat it too with the integrated Surefire light. The A17 of course seals the deal, and now I get to have my 9mm can on the gun. That's part of the dream build. Funny enough, with the A17 adapter, even trying to use the tri-lug with this setup, not gonna happen. Trying to use the direct threads, still too tight where the silencer was contacting the adapter portion of the light. We had to throw on another muzzle device on the end of the barrel. It's like a 1/2" adapter to help clear out some space for that silencer to get on the gun. I think in the future, what I may do is look at some potentially thinner cans that I can just direct thread onto the MP5 itself. That way there's not this adapter on the gun kind of there whenever I take the silencer off. It's not the biggest deal. If you're an aesthetics retard like myself, it becomes kind of unpleasing to the eye. So I'm a stickler for details, as you guys know. One thing that I really despise about Zenith for doing this on their MP5, their ZF5, is on the charging handle, they have their logo. For whatever reason, this drives me up a wall. It makes me go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in a negative fashion. I was trying to swap out the charging handle with an MP5 charging handle, but the specs of it just wasn't working. So if you guys have any experience with that, just comment down below, like if you had to do anything with it. I'm actually really curious. So that was a big bummer, because now there's still like the Zenith cocking handle, charging handle, whatever the hell you want to call it, on the gun. Hey, back yonder on the Chattahoochee, where it gets hotter than a hoochie's coochie, when I got the ZF5, it came with the Picatinny rear adapter for a stock or a brace. A good option in the modern day and age. The problem is it does not fit my aesthetical needs. So what I ended up doing, what happened was, I ordered a retractable stock from Zenith, but that ended up breaking. So I figured, well, that's what you get. So I went and ordered a MKE retractable stock from HK Parts, and that's what we have on here, helping to complete the desired look. Now, to make Henry of 9-Hole Reviews happy, I went with the HK 3-point sling. Fellas, this is a little bit of a learning curve. This thing has a tendency in weird positions to get a little kerfluffled. It moves about a bit when you're trying to do the high-speed, flat-range LARPs dynamic. Kind of pop up where you don't want it to. But it looks really cool, and I gotta make Henry over there proud of me. Think highly and fondly of me. This video is sponsored by Americana Pipe Trim Apparel. Fantastic Zoomers getting after the milsurp space and arena. They have everything you need to fill out your LARP fantasies. Night vision, knives, cool Japanese weeb knives. More specifically, they have e-bikes, expensive, fun. You can terrorize your HOA if you have an HOA. And of course, a slew of milsurp clothing. I can't stress how cool it was seeing they had a Swedish Zeltbahn, like the rain cover kind of thing, on their website. Code admin, get you 10% off the store. If you like having optics on your gun, it's nice. I appreciate it. Thanks, Optics Planet. How thoughtful. And of course, you probably already saw us running Jellos from Badlands Munitions, the ammo sponsor. Appreciate those guys greatly. Now we get back to the video. Those Jellos are pretty sick, dude. As far as the optic, we have a Aimpoint Pro inside of some Vortex 30mm ring mounts, a low profile one. Running the potential simulator, assessing what I want to do. Do I want to go irons or do I want to go red dot? And I figured if I'm doing a dream build, you know, I just realized during this video, I should really up my dreams for my life. Like I should be like, dude, my dream should be getting like a Ferrari. Cause then if I fall short, I'll get a Porsche. My dreams are like, I want a full auto MP5 tricked out. And it's like, I get, you know, yeah, it's a big deal. But you know, as far as like material possessions go, it's not I'm very grateful for my life and I'm happy with this. Hey, hey little pal. Wally's camera angle makes you feel like a child, and I'm scolding you because you hit little Billy on the playground. You weren't supposed to do that. I'm gonna have to call your mommy and daddy, and we're gonna have a nice little talk for a parent-teacher conference about why we aren't bullies. That's what it feels like, dude. Get up higher, Wally, come on, dude, come on. These are grown men we're talking to. I'm not scolding school children. If you felt mad about that angle, lame Wally. I love how I razz Wally, but he has the power of editing this video. I was running through the idea of just doing iron sights because I actually like, on a submachine gun like this, specifically the MP5 platform, the irons, because they are phenomenal irons. I think they are wonderful. Then a big perk is literally never having to worry about a battery ever again. And for the distance that I, in theory, would be using this in my SHTF LARP fantasy after getting out of mom's basement, you know, it's all gonna be pretty close quarters. But on the other hand, if we're doing a dream build, we go all out. Okay, we go all out. Might as well throw a red dot on there. And mainly because it reminds me a little bit, despite not having the Knight's Armament rail and his specific silencer from the movie, which I think it might be a CAC silencer. It reminds me of Alejandro from Sicario. It's kind of reminiscent of World War II, where in that conflict on the infantry level, you have like leadership positions that may run a Thompson. Like your NCOs may have Thompsons or other carbines, but typically it's kind of like people think about that, where if you're a little bit more running the show, you have a submachine gun. Well, then like you go into the Cold War era, and a little bit more of the European countries specifically did this, which was a really cool vibe would be, and I know vibe is kind of played out on YouTube right now, but it would be a G3 type rifle, you know, a battle rifle, and then your leadership in that team would be running around with like an MP5. He's not necessarily there to shoot his weapon, he's there to orchestrate things going on. If he does have to shoot his weapon, things are probably going pretty bad for him. But he's there to make sure his MG3 guys are up and running, his G3 riflemen are maneuvering how they should be, and he's in a more of a leadership role. Do I think of myself as that kind of a cool guy? Yeah, no, I don't. But I think it's a really cool aspect to a submachine gun history. Because even after you get out of that, where it's like now you start getting to the eras of the 5.56 for the more Western world, pretty much everyone's running a M16 or an M4 of some kind, even the leadership that runs the show. But there still is the trace of the MP5 taking place, specifically with very high-speed cool guys or looking at law enforcement. Even at the department I used to work at, they retired them, but they had full auto MP5s chambered in 40 cal. It very much was a thing for departments throughout the country. There's even a famous video, I know off the top of my head, of like a cop mag dumping at a suspect with an MP5 on the side of a highway. So there's obviously a bunch of cool history tied to the gun, and that is one of those reasons why I am absolutely a big fan of it. And it's just really fun to shoot. Go figure. Sadly, yet again, I don't have the Skrilla to drop on a fully transferable MP5A3. I don't feel like going the SOT route that it would take to solve that problem much cheaper, because I don't feel like dealing with government agencies, because bureaucracies are my Achilles heel. So thankfully the super safeties exist. Sadly mine broke, but here we are. I got nothing else for you. Catch you on the flip.